A very good morning to all of you, my dear students. Welcome to your favorite channel. Let's come together. This is Shafiq Ahmed and hope that you are all safe by the grace of the Almighty. So, this is our fifth lesson, and what we have discussed in the fourth one, we discussed about the welcome to the Simon Commission. The British government, they selected a committee so that they can suggest changes in the constitution, in the constitutional system which was going on in India at that time. And one more thing, they wanted to put an end to all the protests. So they decided to set up the committee, but the problem was that there was not a single Indian member in the committee. That's why the Indian, all the parties of the Indian, they all clubbed together and they started protesting against the Simon Commission. Sir John Commission was the head of the Simon Commission. That's why it was named as Simon Commission. And actually, we know that who was the head and why this was done, for what, to club. So we have all discussed all these things in our previous class. We discussed a lot of things. This is one of the second factor, that because of that Indian politics changed a little bit, due to the Simon Commission. Sir John Commission was the head of the committee. That's why it was named as just on the Simon Commission. And at the same time, Lord Irwin also tried to fool the Indians by giving some vague offers, false offers of the dominant status, which was having unspecified future. And they also said that they were ready to talk face to face also, but it does not satisfy the Congress leaders. And in December 1929, in the Lahore Congress session, Jawaharlal Nehru and his party decided that they will start the full independence campaign, that is Purna Swaraj campaign. On 26 January 1930, they celebrated, they decided that they will celebrate their Independence Day on 26 January and they will take a pledge to complete independence, for complete independence. But unfortunately, it could not attract a lot of attention. Now, what happened next? Ultimatum to the British government is a new topic. Ultimatum means Chetavni. The ultimatum was given to the British government on 31st January 1930. Gandhiji sent a letter to the Viceroy Irwin and he stated 11 demands. Remember that this is the Chetavni, that is the ultimatum to the British government. And Gandhiji sent a letter including 11 current and very right demands. And some of the demands were from general interest, which is common to all, but others were specific, means special demands of different classes of the people, that ranges from industrialists to peasants. What was the idea behind this? What was the idea of Gandhiji behind this? That he wanted to include the number of people, the more number of people, that is from peasants to the industrialists, means from rich to the poor. Everyone should be included in the independence campaign to get rid of the Britishers. Everyone should be in one side, that he wanted. And that's why he included the interest, he included all the demands of all the different classes of people, and even the industrialists and even the farmers, even the tribal peasants, even the plantation workers. He tried to include all the demands and he collected it in 11 demands. Few of them were general interest and many of them were special. Next, what he did, he was very clever, Gandhiji, at that time, because he wanted to start a united campaign. United means the whole India should be together on the same path, so that everyone can stand against the Britishers, and then only the Britishers get uh, would get disturbed and they will leave the country. That was the idea behind this particular letter and giving ultimatum to the Britishers. The most stirring of all those 11 demand was the demand to abolish the salt tax. Now, Gandhiji steering is this demand is steering because the salt is being used from by all the poor as well as the rich people, and British government was having monopoly in the salt. Monopoly over here, it means that the Indians cannot manufacture salt and they cannot sell it also. They will only have to purchase salt from the Britishers, and not only they will have to pay the price of that salt, along with they will have to pay the tax also. So Gandhiji was clever over here. He put this demand on the top. He put his demand of abolishing the salt tax. He wanted that the tax on the salt should be abolished, should be finished off. And he knew that all the even the rich as well as the poor use salt. So it will include all of them. No one can say that no, it is not my matter. It is not concerned to my religion, to my society. Everyone should be included because salt is being used by everyone. Now we will deal with what was the demand in the salt tax, what was there in the Salt Act also. Salt was something, see, very clearly mentioned that it is consumed by the rich as well as the poor, and it was the most essential item of food. We all know that we really want to cook something good, then we need salt. Without salt, few tasty items cannot be made. Mahatma Gandhi's letter was in a way ultimatum. Why it was like an ultimatum, चेतावनी क्यों था ये? Because he wrote in his letter that if the demands were not fulfilled by 11th March 1930, see here, the letter was written on 31st January 1930, and he said that the demands should be fulfilled, all these 11 demands including abolishing the salt tax. So if those demands will not be fulfilled by 11th March 1930, means hey, he gave full 1 month of February and then 10 or 11 days of March also to the British government. Almost 41 days or 40 days he gave to the Britishers to think about these 11 demands. The letter stated that if the demands will not be fulfilled, then the Congress would launch a civil disobedience campaign. Means the Congress party will start a new movement that is known as civil disobedience campaign, in which the people will start breaking their laws, breaking their rules and regulations. They will not obey, they will disobey all the act, all the laws created by, framed by the British government. People will start disobeying them. So the last date of the ultimatum was 11th March 1930. If it will be not done by the Britishers, if it is not fulfilled, then Gandhiji will surely launch a disobedience campaign, which unfortunately has increased our syllabus also. Let us see what happened next. Irvin was unwilling to negotiate. Viceroy Irvin over here, he was very arrogant, you can say. So he was unwilling to negotiate. He just rejected the proposal. Even he was not ready to talk face to face also with Mahatma Gandhi or the Gandhi or the Congress party. Means he was on his top also that I am the viceroy, we are the government over here. Why should we listen to this poor Indian people? So he was very arrogant at that time, and he was unwilling, means he was not ready even to talk for these demands. Now, as I told you that I will discuss few things about the tax also. What was the salt tax and what was the act at that time? Let us see. Britain's Salt Act of 1882, remember, Salt Act of 1882 prohibited Indians from collecting or selling salt. Means the Indians cannot even collect salt from the sea or rivers or the oceans. The Indians cannot collect. Even they cannot sell also the salt. Even they cannot manufacture also. And this act was like an obstacle in their diet. Obstacle means rukawat, khane peene mein rukawat. If they want to make something special, some spicy biryani or some different type of dishes, then salt is one of the most essential component over there. So Indians were taking it as an obstacle in their diet. Now, what was next in the Salt Act of 1882? That Indian citizens were forced to buy salt from the British rulers. They will have to buy salt. They cannot manufacture, they cannot collect, or they cannot sell also. They will anyhow will have to buy salt from the British rulers only. And what the Britishers were doing, they were exercising a monopoly over the manufacture as well as salt of salt. They were having monopoly. It means that they can charge as much as they need, as they want. If they want to charge rupees 50 per kg, then no one is going to stop them. If they want to charge rupees 500 per kg salt for salt, no one is going to stop them. They were having the monopoly, they were having the power in their hand. So it was very tough for the Indians to buy salt at that time. Nowadays it is quite cheaper, but at that time it was very, very expensive for the people to buy salt. So they were using salt very carefully. Britishers, that they were exercising this monopoly that Indians cannot manufacture or they cannot sell it also. And they were charging a heavy salt tax on the purchase of the salt. If someone is going to buy salt, then they will have to pay the price of the salt also, and they will have to pay heavy tax on that salt also. Indian poor people suffered most under this tax, as all Indians required salt. We all know that everyone requires salt. So what happened next? Did the Britishers fulfill the demand? Were they ready or not? So our next topic is related with that. So what happened? Whether they agreed on 11th March, before 11th March, or they did not agree, the Britishers. Let us see. On March 12, 1930, Mahatma Gandhi started his famous Salt March, accompanied by 78 of his trusted volunteers. As we know that Arvind was not ready to talk, even he was not ready to negotiate. So they have not fulfilled any of the demand of the Mahatma Gandhi or the Indians. So as it was written that 11th March 1930 was the last date, so Gandhi ji was ready to launch civil disobedience movement from 12th March 1930, and he did that also. And he was not back also. He started on 12th March 1930. He started walking from one place to another. Let us see from where to where. He started his salt march. The march that he started was known to as a salt march, and he was accompanied by 78 of his trusted volunteers. 78 people were with him. So they all started the salt march. From where they started and for how much they will have to go, see, the march was over 240 miles, that is 386 kilometer approximately. They decided to walk, and they decided to walk from Gandhiji ashram in Sabarmati. Still now we will have, if you want to see, you can go to Sabarmati in Gujarat to see that ashram, Gandhiji ashram. So Gandhiji ashram, they started from Sabarmati, and they were targeting to reach the coastal town of Dandi. Coastal town means near the coast, near the sea beach. That is the town. So they decided to go there from ashram of Gandhiji, from Sabarmati to Dandi, which was approximately 386 kilometer, or you can say, if you talking about miles, 240 miles they have to walk. So they started on 12th March 1930 this famous salt march, which is also known as Dandi march, which is also known as salt satyagraha. Also it is also known as salt satyagraha. The volunteers, along with Gandhiji, they walked for 24 days, about 10 miles per day. That is approximately 16 kilometers they were walking daily. 240 miles divided by 24. They completed these 24 days. They have completed these 240 miles in just 24 days. That is, they walked 10 miles a day. Approximately, they walked 16 kilometers a day to complete this particular salt march. And on the way, wherever Gandhiji was having halt, wherever he was stopping to take rest along with volunteers, people from all other places started to meet the volunteers and Gandhiji, and they started joining the campaigns. They started joining the salt march along with Gandhiji. So the people, or you can say the crowd, was increasing and increasing, and wherever Gandhiji was stopping, he was telling the people how to continue our next civil disobedience movement. He was trying to teach them, he was trying to guide them that how to disobey the British rule peacefully. It means the people should not fight with the Britishers. They will have to just disobey the Britishers peacefully. They should not fight. They should not start violence movement. They should just continue non-violence. So Gandhiji was training the people wherever he was stopping. He was training the people that how should they peacefully disobey the Britishers. Now let us see. On 6th April, means he started from 12th March, you can add 24 days there, and he reached on 6th April 1980. Where he reached? He reached the coastal town of Dandi. And he ceremonially, means the people were awaiting there at Dandi to see Mahatma Gandhi and his followers and the people. They were thinking of what should be the next step of Gandhiji. What will he do by coming in Dandi? You know, what is the next step from Gandhiji? What Gandhiji is going to do in Dandi? Every people, everyone was having the eye, on that particular day, 6th April 1980. A lot of people reached there. There was a crowd of people, and Gandhiji ceremonially, like we celebrate something, Gandhiji ceremonially also violated the law. Which law? Gandhiji violated the Salt Act of 1882, and according to that act, no one can manufacture salt. But Gandhiji violated, broke broke that law by manufacturing salt by boiling the seawater. We all know if we will boil the seawater, then the seawater will become water vapor and it will go up in the air, and what will be the remaining thing left in that container will be the salt. So in that way we can manufacture salt, and Gandhiji was quite knowing this thing, then how to manufacture salt. So he took a glass of water or water in the container, and he boil it, and by boiling he manufactured salt, which then and there broke the Salt Act of 1882, which violated and started disobeying the Britishers from 6th April 1930. And from there the foundation has been laid. Which foundation I'm talking about? The foundation of the civil disobedience movement, led on 6th April 1930, when Gandhiji manufactured salt by saying by boiling seawater. Seawater. That is the beginning of the civil disobedience movement from then and there. 6th April 1930. Remember the date and the year. Now, what were the reactions from the British side? Because if you will break the law of the country, if you will disobey the Britishers, if disobey the government, disobey the rulers, then they will surely take some actions on you. What were the reactions by the government side? Let us see. The government began arresting the Congress leaders one by one, as they were quite worried by the development of the movement. They started what? Arresting the Congress leaders. Next, arresting of Congress leaders led to violent clashes in many places, and many were killed also. People started to clash with the police, to clash with the government, because the government was arresting their leaders. So how would they keep quiet? So people started fighting with the Britishers, which was against the teaching of Mahatma Gandhi. There was violent clash everywhere. People were getting killed. Even the British officers, police officers were also being killed by the local people, and police were also killing the local people, and they were being killed also by the local people. Abdul Ghaffar Khan, the right hand of Mahatma Gandhi, is also known as Frontier Gandhi also. Sometime you might face this question, who was known as Frontier Gandhi? Means Abdul Ghaffar Khan was leading in front. He was the most obedient follower of Mahatma Gandhi. He was taken as the right hand of Mahatma Gandhi. He was very devoted disciple. Disciple means what? Means follower, or you can say in Hindi, chela we say. So Abdul Ghaffar Khan was the most famous as well as devoted disciple of Mahatma Gandhi, and he was arrested by the police on April 1930, which angered the crowd of the people. Due to the arrest of Abdul Ghaffar Khan, a lot of people got angry and they started demonstrating in the streets of Peshawar. And Peshawar was in India at that time. So people started demonstrating, protesting in the streets, and people were facing bulletproof cars of the Britishers, and they were also facing the firing from the police side. Due to Abdul Ghaffar Khan arrest in April 1930. A month later, Gandhiji was himself was arrested. Gandhiji was also arrested a month later. You can say in the month of May 1930, Gandhiji was also arrested by the Britishers. And due to that, industrial workers of Sholapur, they started attacking police posts. They started attacking municipal buildings, law courts, railway stations, or whatever the structure was from the Britishers side. People were just trying to destroying that particular structure, whether it is police station, whether it is post office, whether it is hospital, whether it is doctors, clinic, whatever. They were saying that these are made by the Britishers, then they were just destroying that particular things so that they can take revenge for against the government for the arrest of Mahatma Gandhi. So you can see over here there was just chaos everywhere in India. People were fighting and dying, and they were clashing with the government. This also frightened the government also, because they were attacking police posts, municipal buildings, courts, railway station. So the government was also frightened. Government be dare with it, and they also responded with a brutal repression. Brutal means what over here? Bareham, without mercy, no mercy. So government was also having the policy of no mercy. Do not have mercy on the people who are revolting. They were also beating them up, killing them, firing on them. Means government was also doing, and even the people were also fighting with the police. Even you can see peaceful processions wherever they were, the people were protesting by following the path of non-violence also. Even there, women and children were beaten, and around 1 lakh people were arrested by the Britishers over here. So police officials, they were attacking even women and children also. They were beating them up. Even they were doing the procession, doing the protest peacefully. About 1 lakh people were arrested because of this protest. Mahatma Gandhi was again forced to take some action because he wanted to stop. He didn't want to kill his own people due to some movement. So that's why he was forced to take once again harsh action. That was, he decided to call off this civil disobedience movement, and he entered into an agreement that is known as pact with Viceroy Irvin on 5th March 1931. Gandhiji and Viceroy Irvin, they signed one contract, you can say, on 5th March 1931, so that all these things should be maybe stopped. The British police officials will be stopped, and even the government, even the protesters who were protesting, they will also stop. To stop all these things, Gandhiji decided to have an agreement with Irvin. Now, what was that agreement? Let us see. That agreement was known as in history known as Gandhi Irvin Pact. And what was signed in this pact? What was the demand or the conditions in this pact? Gandhiji agreed to participate in round table conference. That was also given as a vague offer, false offer from the Irvin side. So Gandhiji this time he was agreeing, okay, I will talk face to face with the Britishers. But that round table conference was to be held in London. And on the other hand, government also agreed, because Gandhiji agreed to talk face to face. So the government also agreed to release those 1 lakh political prisoners whom they have arrested. So to get them free, Gandhiji signed the contract, Gandhi Irvin Pact, and was ready to talk face to face. And in December 1931, you can see Gandhiji went to London for that roundtable conference. Roundtable means they will all sit together in a round table and they will have discussion. So Gandhiji went to London in December 1931, but he returned empty-handed. You can say that the negotiation broke down and Gandhiji returned disappointed back to India. And when he returned in India, he saw something new. What was new? That Gandhiji discovered the government had begun a new cycle of repression. That the government has started new different techniques to stop the protests from the Indians. Gandhiji saw that Abdul Ghaffar Khan, he was his right hand, and Jawaharlal Nehru were both in jail. They were not out. They both were being arrested by the police. And what he saw else, that Congress party was declared illegal. by the Britishers, because Gandhiji was not in India at that time. He was in London, and when he came back, he saw that even the Congress Party had been declared illegal by the Britishers, and a lot of measures had been imposed on the Indian people to prevent meetings. Also, means Indians cannot meet together. Also, they cannot demonstrate. Also, they cannot demonstrate means what? They cannot do protest. They cannot come to the streets to protest. Also, and even they cannot boycott different materials of the government. They cannot boycott foreign goods or foreign products. So these were the things government started in India in the absence of Gandhiji. Indians cannot meet, they cannot protest, they cannot boycott also. So Gandhiji, now he got angry over here, Gandhiji, and he decided once again to relaunch the civil disobedience movement, which he stopped in 1931. Now he relaunched this civil disobedience movement again in the year 1932. But this time, this movement was not running at its full fledged, because people were also worried, because they were knowing that a lot of things were happened, a lot of lives were lost. Someone lost their father, someone lost their mother, someone lost their brother. So there was great loss due to that civil disobedience movement, which resulted in a lot of beating and killing of people from both the sides. So this civil disobedience movement, however, it was started in 1932, but till 1944 it just lost its momentum. People stopped believing on this civil disobedience movement, and this civil disobedience movement lost its momentum in the year 1934. Just for 2 years, another 2 years, it was just running, and it was just working, or you can say moving like the ants. However, it was stopped in the year 1934. What is next? Let us see to our next topic. We have gone through about the Gandhi Urban Pact. This is the last topic of this tutorial. We will go through the differences between the civil disobedience movement and non-cooperation movement. This is very, very important question. It comes a lot of time. It has come in your examination, in your board exam, and this might in your next exam also you might face this question, that what is the difference between civil disobedience movement and non-cooperation. So I will give you some 7 points, and I will help you out that how can you remember these points very easily. Let us see. Let us start from the beginning. It was launched, non-cooperation movement. It was launched in 1920s. Remember the year. Non-cooperation movement launched in 1920. Civil disobedience movement launched in 1930. There is a difference of 10 years. Just remember 1920, 1930. Like this. Try to remember. Non-cooperation 1920. Civil disobedience movements launched in 1930. By starting non-cooperation movement, Gandhiji target was to bring down the government at standstill. Means government को रोक देने का इरादा था गांधी जी का. He tried, he wanted the government to be a standstill, थम जाने के लिए, by withdrawing every support to the British government. If people will not cooperate the Britishers, then they would not be able to perform their work. So that was the aim of Gandhiji by launching this non-cooperation movement, and he was thinking that within a year the Britishers will leave India, but it was not so. And what was the aim of Gandhiji by launching this civil disobedience movement? Let us see. Gandhiji aimed at the government would be paralyzed. कुछ नहीं कर सकेंगे government if we will start disobeying them. So the aim between by launching this CDM, civil disobedience movement, was that he wanted to paralyze the government by undertaking acts which the British considered as illegal. Means they tried to break all the laws of the government, the act of the government. So over here, non-cooperation movement, he wanted to stand still the government. But in this civil disobedience movement, he wanted to paralyze government. Remember these keywords. If you will remember these keywords, stand still, remember this keyword paralyzing, then you can develop your or frame your own sentences in your examination. You can write it in your own words, and that the student who writes in their own words, they get the more marks. So just try to remember the keywords. In first sentence, in first difference, the keyword was the year 1920, 1930. Over here, the keyword is stand still. Non-cooperation movement to stand still the government. Civil disobedience movement to paralyze the government. Remember the keywords. Okay. Point number 3. Very easy. large number of people participated in the non-cooperation movement because it was the fresh movement, non-cooperation movement. So a lot of people participated, but over here many people backed out. They did not support because they their demands were not fulfilled in the non-cooperation movement. So this was the civil disobedience movement was the next after non-cooperation movement. So people who lost the belief, they were not supporting the civil disobedience movement. So this one large number of people, and over here few number of people, you can say, or many people back out of the movement because their demands were not fulfilled in the previous movement. And what was the previous one? The non-cooperation movement. So that's why people did not participate wholeheartedly over here in CDM, civil disobedience movement. So over here key point is large number, over here many people backed out. That is the keyword. Point number 4, in non-cooperation movement, people were asked only to refuse cooperation. Means they will not have to just cooperate the Britishers. They do not have to cooperate. But in civil disobedience movement, they will have to not cooperate them, and even they will have to break the colonial, means the government laws also. So over here they will have to break laws as well as non-cooperate, and in non-cooperation movement they will just have to non-cooperate the British. They will not have to cooperate them. So here the aim was different, the work was different over here in non-cooperation movement. They will have to refuse cooperation, and even here over here they will have to break the laws. That you can write over there. Point number 5, in non-cooperation movement. Non-cooperation movement was in different stages. There were different stages. We have discussed. That is, they will have to surrender the titles first. Then they will have to boycott the election, even the foreign goods. These were the different stages of non-cooperation movement. And point number 5 in CDM, it was started by breaking the salt law. CDM. We remember that Gandhiji broke the salt law by manufacturing the salt. So civil disobedience movement started by breaking the salt law, and non-cooperation movement started by surrendering the titles and boycotting of everything. Point number 6, try to remember. You will have to just remember at least 5 points. Okay, women didn't participate on a large scale in this movement. In non-cooperation movement, women were not participating in large number, but here in civil disobedience movement, women participated in large scale because manufacturing the salt was something to be done in the kitchen, and we know that who are in the kitchen, the women are in the kitchen. So lot of women participated, and they were just thinking that they are doing something for their country by manufacturing the salt, and on in that way they were again following the ideas of Mahatma Gandhi, and as well as they were participating in the government just by manufacturing salt or boiling the seawater in their kitchen. So in this movement, civil disobedience movement, Gandhi women were participating wholeheartedly. Point number 7, very very important, that non-cooperation movement was withdrawn by Gandhiji in the year 1922. That was after the incident of at Chori Chora. And point number 7 over here, that civil disobedience movement was called off in the year 1931, but it was relaunched. But it was called off 1931. You can write over here by signing the Gandhi-Irving Pact. So from these 7 points, you try to remember only 5, any 5 over from here, so that you can get 5 marks in your examination if this question is there. How would you remember 5 point? Try to remember the year of the launch. That is 1 point. Second point, the year of withdrawn, 1922, 1931. Here you can start learning from here that stand still, either here paralyzing the government. Women participated in large number. Non-cooperation movement they did not participate in large number of women, and in civil disobedience they participated in large number. Civil disobedience movement. And the fifth point that you can remember over here, that people were asked only to refuse the cooperation with the Britishers in non-cooperation movement, while in civil disobedience movement, people were asked to do both. Do not cooperate the Britishers and break their laws also. That is all. You can remember the difference between the CDM and non-cooperation movement very easily, my dear students. Hope you would like the video and would like the teachings also. Please like the video also, and try to meet me and watch the video in our next class also. If you are new to this channel, please subscribe it and press the bell icon also, and share it with your friends so that they can also learn it easily. For the time being, thank you to all. Bye bye. Take care and stay at home.